All right, let's talk New Orleans Saints. Obviously, in the thick of first-year head coach Kellen Moore's training camp, a lot of buzz, a lot of energy right now in New Orleans. A lot of it has to do with the quarterback position, but lost in the hustle and bustle of that QB battle is an under-the-radar rookie, a kind of a forgotten guy that's emerging as an unstoppable force. This guy is a stud, and I think he's a great addition for the Saints. We'll get to the latest with this young playmaker and some great data to prove it on the other side. But first, I'm Nick. That is Andrew, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the New Orleans Saints made a lot of news in the second round of the NFL draft, of course, when they selected Tyler Shuck. And that news and that quarterback position, all the drama and intrigue that goes with it, has, of course, continued throughout the offseason. But when you look at it, forgotten guy, right? Obviously, you think of the first round pick, you look at Shuck, you look at where this team is headed, new head coach Kellen Moore. That's where all the attention seems to be. But a forgotten rookie, Danny Stutsman, linebacker from Oklahoma, a guy who was just a phenomenal player in college, team leader, team captain kind of guy. He's showing up and showing out. He is dominating. You talk about a future star, maybe even a present star in the Saints defense. Let's pull up the articles to reports. We got not one, but two, but three reports highlighting Stutzman's performance in camp so far. Let's look at it on the screen here if you don't mind. All three of these are courtesy of the X platform. Garland Gillen posted rookie linebacker Danny Stutzman continues to deliver big plays for the Saints defense. On Sunday, he intercepted Spencer Rattler. The Oklahoma Sooners alum will push for playing time this fall for the black and gold. All right, the next report is from Chris Rozovglau. I probably just mispronounced that, so I apologize in advance. I feel like Danny Stutzman is going to make it hard for the Saints coaches to keep him off the field. The dude can play. And then finally, John Hendricks, you talk about the coaches. He actually got a quote from head coach Kellen Moore saying, Kellen Moore says Danny Stutzman has done an excellent job, said he's making consistent plays and defending routes well. So again, Kellen Moore, an offensive guy, calling out defensive linebacker rookie Stutzman. That is high praise. So we're looking at a young guy, Danny Stutzman, emerging as a big-time playmaker for the Saints defense, fourth-round selection. What a find for New Orleans. But if we backtrack a couple months, we talked about Stutzman during the mini camp phase and said, listen, when you look at his data, this is a better player than people give it credit for. Let's pull up our first chart here to highlight what I'm talking about. So we talked about linebackers in college football last season, and one of our favorite metrics to evaluate or use to evaluate is the stop metric. So stop is a play a defensive player makes that's a loss for the offense. So if it's 1st and 10 and you run up the middle and it's no gain, that's a stop, right? It may just show up on the stat sheet as a regular tackle, but that's a loss for the offense, right? They were trying to get yards, they didn't get any. You get a stop. You like stops, obviously, if you're on defense. And you can see, based on the graphic in front of you here, comparing Stutzman, who's all the way on the right, to Carson Swessinger, Demetrius Knight, and Jeffrey Bassa. Three, I think, similar linebackers. Knight is doing a great job for Cincinnati. He's going to be a really good player personally. But you look at Stutzman, he is better. Statistics here, more stops than all three of these guys, right? Schlesinger is the only one who's even remotely close. Knight and Basso well far behind. Again, that's not an indictment of any of these other three guys. They're good football players, like I said. Demetrius Knight Jr., personally, I think he's going to be a star in Cincinnati. But Stutzman, folks, he is just or was that much better in Oklahoma during the collegiate ranks, and it looks like he's continuing that progress into the NFL with the New Orleans Saints, which is obviously a great sign for New Orleans. But it's important to understand it's not just this one statistic, right? We're not cherry picking data here. It's other numbers as well. Let's go ahead and go to our next set of graphic here just to take an unbiased approach to prove we're not cherry picking. When we looked at the overall grade and the run defense grade, and we'll get to why we picked run defense in just a second, you can see it's the same order: Schlesinger, Knight, Bassa working left to right, and then Stutzman on the far right. Overall grade according to PFF in blue, run defense grade in red. You can see right there that Stutzman far and away the best run defender, not even close. He's better overall than Bassa, right about the same as Schlesinger and Knight. Knight's a little bit better overall grade. Knight's a really good player, like I mentioned a second ago. But again, Stutzman handles himself well in terms of overall grade based on the analytics, and he's far superior in run defense grade. Now, why does this matter? Let's go into our final graphic here. I know we got a lot of images for you guys, but this is good stuff. So what we have here is just a graphic highlighting essentially, for lack of a better word, how bad the Saints were in terms of run defense last year. They were one of the worst when you look at the advanced analytics. So on the x-axis, you got the number of snaps you had on defense, and on the y-axis, you got the defensive EPA per rush, right? And you can see on the far left, in the upper left quadrant, you can see the Eagles, right? Eagles, really great defense. That's where you want to be. You can see the Chiefs around that area too. Really great defense. That's where you want to be. Where are the Saints, folks? Bottom right. That's not where you want to be. They're not that far away from the Carolina Panthers. You can see the Panthers there. Really bad defense. Obviously, you don't want to be too close to Carolina. The Saints were. They were bad against the run last year. What is Stutzman really good at, folks? We just showed you on the previous chart. run defense. He was one of the best in the country, and he's already making plays for the Saints in that regard. Plus, some plays in the pass game as well. That was a weakness for him in college, by the way. So it's good to see him make plays in coverage for New Orleans in camp. But when you look at what Stutsman does best and where he can contribute, he is an elite level. We're talking first round, top 15 pick caliber run defender. He went in the fourth round for other reasons, but in terms of just stopping the run, he is a superstar. And the Saints, that's what they need the most, folks. Guys who can stop the run. The data here shows it. Stutzman's proving in his camp. You're seeing what Kellen Moore is saying. Again, it's early. A lot of things can happen. We got preseason games, more practice to go through. But so far, I think the Saints have pulled off a massive win here, kind of a hidden gem by this forgotten rookie, Danny Stutsman. He won't be forgotten long, folks, because he's going to have a great career with New Orleans if he can keep this up. All right, Miles, I know you've got a few thoughts on Stutzman and the Saints, but first, New Orleans fans in the comment section below, we're talking fourth-round selections like Danny Stutzman. So let me ask you this question. In New Orleans Saints history, who is the greatest fourth-round pick of all time, right? You can only pick one. There's a lot of different ways to go here, but I'm really curious where you go. So give us your opinion here. Best fourth-round pick in Saints history. Let us know in the comment section below. And while you're down there, make sure you go to the description box and sign up for our weekly newsletter, courtesy of the Substack platform, 100% free, just a bunch of extra content for you guys. Again, we even highlight the comment of the week. So if you have a great comment, you may find yourself in there. Make sure you sign up. Again, link in the description box below, 100% free. But Mize, enough from me. Over to you now. What are your thoughts on this latest update for the Saints?
All right, Nick, talking about Danny Stutsman, this is a guy that we've been high on this guy for quite some time, ever since he came out of Oklahoma. We've been following him. We knew he was going to be good, but just how good, I don't think people understand. And hearing all of this praise from three different sources, from the head coach's mouth as well, I think this is all really great stuff for the Saints, because Stutsman is a guy, he's the kind of guy where I would be bold enough to say this. I guarantee you that eventually Danny Stutsman, he's going to be a captain on this defense, and he's going to be a vocal leader for this defense as well. That's the kind of guy he is. That's the kind of playmaker that the Saints have in Stutsman. So I think this was a big pickup. This is going to be a huge steal for them, being able to get him in the fourth round like they did. The Saints got themselves a real winner here. And we talk about, stops. We talk about whatever is going, how crucial that metric is for the linebacker position. And we saw how much better Stutsman was, how many more stops he got than everyone else. But if you look at what he did that for 3 straight years at Oklahoma, back-to-back seasons, all the way back to 2022, 54 stops for Stutsman, then 2023, 47, and then obviously, like you saw earlier, 2024, 55 stops for Stutsman. So this guy is a machine at making the offense lose. When he's on the field, he negates plays. That's what he does. He is a great person to have in your linebacking core. So I think Danny Stutsman, absolute monster here for the New Orleans Saints. I think he's going to be a really, really great player for them. I think they got an absolute steal here out of Stutsman. I just think with all of these things we're already hearing, he's putting on a show. Multiple different people are talking about him. He has all of the, production, everything you want to hear as far as that coming out of college, what he's doing. Then on top of that, he's got great size. The guy's 6'4", 240 pounds. I mean, put a little bit more weight on him, but he's got good size for a linebacker already. This guy is the prototypical NFL type of linebacker. This is what you want. I think the Saints got an absolute steal here out of Danny Stutsman.
Yeah, and he's just the kind of guy that, we've talked about a lot of the time when he played at Oklahoma. We covered him a lot. He's just, you brought up the fact that leadership and everything. He's just sort of like the old school archetypal perfect linebacker. This was the guy who was all conference 3 straight years, both in the Big 12, and then when Oklahoma shifted to the SEC, was a 2-time All-American his last 2 years at Oklahoma. You talk about 3 straight seasons where he had that high number of stops. He was also led the team in tackles 3 straight seasons, was the team captain, was a leader of the squad at Oklahoma, do some good and a lot of bad as they kind of handled a transition with their new coach and moving over to the Southeastern Conference. Just a good locker room guy, good leader, hyper productive, good analytics. He's one of these guys that when you look back, why did he fall in the draft? You look at his weaknesses and the concerns, and they're kind of very specific and sort of, I don't want to say vague, but just not necessarily unimportant, but a little overhyped, I'll say. So this is according to his NFL.com draft profile. They say he lacks this explosive stack and shed pop in his take-ons. Okay, that's a very specific, very isolated incident. He lacks explosive stack and shed pop. Okay, he absorbs more contact than he delivers to blockers. Okay, like if you're a linebacker, right, you're not taught to you're not taught to jump around blockers. You're trying to absorb the contact and maintain your gap and play off of them. So I'm a little confused there. Can be a step slow sprinting wide to cut off outside runs. Okay, he's can be a step slow. Does that mean he is slow? What does can be mean, right? And my point here with these negatives is that they seem very vague, very just almost like they're looking for a flaw. If you look at the evaluation of Stutsman, he was such a good player in college. He was hyper productive analytically once you get into advanced stats, just raw production, leadership, accolades in the media. It seemed like during the draft process, and this happens with a lot of guys, they get over evaluated and people start looking for flaws. And then they show up, they slide in the draft, and then they show up in training camp, and they're just a really good player. And we brought up the 3 reports before highlighting all the plays he's making. We talked about Kellen Moore saying Stutsman is a player. This is a guy that's going to emerge as a playmaker. And because of his attitude and his leadership, even if he doesn't crack the starting lineup early in his career, I guarantee you he's going to be a special teams demon, and he's going to be just lauded for it because he is a guy that's all about competing and winning. He was that day one in Norman, Oklahoma. He's already that with the New Orleans Saints, and he will be that way with whatever role he is with the Saints to start. I think he will grow into a team captain, linebacker kind of role, just like you mentioned. I think he's a future star in the NFL, to be totally honest. I think he can be that good. Now, he may be star in the traditional linebacker sense where he gets a lot of tackles, green dot, calls the plays, does a lot of good stuff, right? You know, that kind of linebacker is a little out of vogue these days. We're more interested, or when I say we, the NFL media space at large, in the playmaking linebacker, the guy who gets a lot of sacks and interceptions. That's not necessarily Stutsman, but you talk about steady, consistent, stopping the run, doing your job. That's what the Saints need. That's what they struggled with last year. That is Danny Stutsman to a core. Phenomenal addition. Good to see him doing well. I'm going to be rooting for him because I was a big fan of his in college. Great job by the Saints. I'm excited to see how they use him in the future. He is going to be a really good player for a long time in the National Football League.